Hi, I'm Katie.
And I'm Mark. And in today's video, we are going to tell a little more of Finn's story about his hydrocephalus and his myelomeningocele and the surgery that he had when he was a day old to close up that opening on his back where the myelo occurred.
So last time we talked about diagnosis and feelings about all of that. And then we say, what's next? So going to appointments, and really we had no idea anything about this. All I know is that my one friend could walk, but I've seen people in wheelchairs. There are a couple different kinds of spina bifida. Some where you don't even know you have it. There's a lesion or there is a kind of a thing, but you don't even know. And then the worst one is, or the most severe one, is when it's protruding out of the spine and nerves are protruding out of their back. That's myelomeningocele, and that's what Finn has. So people will say spina bifida SB, but they'll also say a myelo baby or myelo. They have myelo. They'll shorten that a little bit. So we didn't know all of that. We didn't know when people would say myelo. I had no idea what that meant. Spelled M-Y-E-L-O. So they also were doing a lot of measuring. We didn't know what that all was and what the things they were watching for was, but one of the big ones they were looking for was head size, the circumference of the head. And a normal infant, like when they're a newborn, when they're ready to deliver, is I think around 34, 35. And then the average around those who have hydrocephalus, which is extra fluid in the brain for a variety of reasons, is the average is about 45 centimeters. They were constantly kind of watching to see how big the brain was getting. Now, there are a couple of reasons why you can have hydrocephalus, because it's not only for those who have spina bifida. I'm in a Facebook group of people with hydrocephalus, and it can be in infants, and it can be in other people too. Infants and older adults are more common. And a lot of times they're like head injuries, brain tumors, those kind of things, and then also spina bifida. The brain has, I did not know this before this, but the brain has fluid that it makes. And it goes down the spine for a variety of reasons, things that, as you know, we are not medical professionals. So I'm being very surface level on all of this. Brain has fluid, it goes on the spine for a variety of reasons. Well, with spina bifida, there is a block, a lesion right there, and so it can't get through. So it just collects in the brain, which makes their brain, especially because it's so malleable, right? It's growing and stuff, so it just makes the head huge. So they were checking fins to see how big it was. So they had told us that we were going to go about 38 weeks. 37 is like when they say like they're like mature. That's when my other son was born. They took him at 37 weeks. I was having some medical issues and stuff, so they said 37 weeks, good. We're gonna take him now. He did have a little bit of a lung issue. My other son did. They really like lungs fully developed at 38 weeks, and so that's why they said for Finn, we're gonna wait until 38 weeks. I was really nervous about that because I was like, but you keep worrying about the head and he's getting bigger. I think he was at 44 centimeters at that time, and I was very nervous. They kept saying things like, well, we don't know what the results can be, what the causes can be, or no, what they don't know what the effects of this will be. They could be brain damage. And I was like, I don't want my baby to have brain damage, just take him now. The nice thing is that Facebook groups really help with that. I was freaking out, and the doctors weren't giving me a straight answer, and I couldn't talk to my husband about it. And then I said, should I push for the doctors to take them now? I don't even know if they would, but I just said to these people who knew more than I did because they've experienced it, what should I do? And they said, no, trust the doctors. Lung development is so important. Don't freak out about it. And so we waited, and he was delivered at 38 weeks. And the best thing they do to remove that spinal fluid that's in the brain, the fluid that's in the brain, is put a shunt there. Shunts, some people don't need shunts, even if they have a little bit of it. But it is a tube valve thing, and I'm not even sure about any of this, but it's put in the brain, and there's a tube going down to deposit it into the stomach. Normally, the spinal fluid goes in your brain, goes down your spinal column, and then gets just absorbed in the blood and stuff, that kind of things, goes through the nervous system and stuff. But obviously, ours can't do that, or ones with issues, hydrocephalus can't do that, and so a shunt takes it and then delivers it into the stomach cavity. He got his shunt right here. Kind of looked like a tiara or Star Trek character. Kind of freaky. It kind of looked like his skin was being stretched, so that was also really scary, but they were like, nope, it's no problem. They didn't seem to mind. I didn't feel like we got a lot of shunt extraction, or I wanted to know everything right away, and I didn't feel like we were getting a lot of info at the time. They put it in along with the back closure the day after he was born. So they put the shunt in, and unbeknownst to us, it caused a brain bleed, which they let us know later on that there was a brain bleed. And this was still while we were in the hospital, and they were like, we're not quite sure why there's a brain bleed, but there can be many reasons why that happens. We'll check next time. But it happened because of the shunt. Sadly, that caused his left arm hand not to work properly. It's very stiff and just is not. There's always a hand that you want to, is your dominant hand, but his is very weak and just does not function properly, and it's because of the brain bleed. So there is risks to a shunt. Obviously, he needed a shunt, so there was nothing we could do about that. The shunt can also go wrong. It can also not function properly, which can cause a lot of issues. And they tell you, like, look for shunt malfunction with these things, and we can talk about that later. And his did fail. There was shunt failure, and we had to revise it. And eventually it was moved from here to the back of his head. And actually now it goes across his body and then goes down. You can kind of feel it too. It's interesting, weird. But there are issues with having a shunt. Going through metal detectors. You can't go through metal detectors or any strong magnets because it can change the settings, and so that would be a problem, right? Because there are settings on the shunt that let you know how much fluid can flow through the shunt to leave the brain, because obviously if it's too much, then the brain's going to shrink, right? And that's not good. And then if there's too little, then the brain will expand, and that's not good either. So I have to do, there's constant checking on it. At the beginning especially, you have to check a bunch, and then later on you can go a little bit longer between checks. Hopefully it's more stable. The problem with a shunt is that you always have to be close to a medical facility because it can malfunction at any time, and you will very quickly know what those are, especially if there is shunt malfunction. We can talk about those later, but like going on a cruise would be a problem because they don't have medical people there that can just do a short revision. And so there are a lot of people that are unsure, like, is it okay to take a person with a shot on a cruise? A little scary. Our son is 4, so we have never thought about that yet. We've never gone on a cruise. We haven't taken him. But those are the issues, right? So like being near magnets, MRIs, you have to immediately get that reprogrammed. So yeah, there are definitely goods and bads. I mean, there are life-saving devices, but there obviously are some things with them that make life a little hard. So I don't even think about it. If there's no shunt malfunction, I don't even think about it, right? Because it's there, but now that I'm not a new mom, I'm not like, is he crying too much because he's scared? Like, it's hard when they're babies because they're crying because they're a baby and you don't know if it's a shunt malfunction or not. Now he can talk. So now it's a lot easier because he can say, my head really hurts. So it's easier now. But yeah, it can be scary as a baby because you're kind of new with this. You don't know the signs yet. If you haven't had a malfunction, you just want to make sure that you're not missing the signs, right? But with his first malfunction, we knew that it was happening, and we can talk more about that when we talk about the first malfunction.
As Katie explained, the myelo is an opening of the spinal column where the spinal cord pokes out. And in Finn's case, it made a bulge, kind of a bubble on his back where you could actually see the spinal cord. And that's one of the first things that needed to be corrected once he had been born. When he was a day old, he went into surgery, and the surgeons open up his back a little bit, and essentially they tuck the spinal cord back into the spinal column where it belongs, and in conjunction with some plastic surgeons, they close everything around the spinal column again. They move some muscle and layer it over where the spinal cord had poked out to provide some padding, some protection for the spinal cord. And then they close the skin. And other than a pretty significant scar, things are back to normal visually. In Finn's case, the spinal cord had kind of been kinked, which damaged the nerves. And even though you could tuck it back in and make it look normal, the nerves will never be the same. And so he has limited motor function in his legs, very limited, and very limited sense of feeling below his knees, maybe none. It's a little hard to tell so far, but that is pretty much how they deal with the myelomeningocele. We would appreciate it if you would like our video and subscribe to our channel so that you could continue to follow our story. And in the next video, we plan to tell about Finn's birth and delivery and our experience while he was in the NICU. Thank you for watching. Bye.